Hello everyone, IceRestic12 here, bringing you the first video of a new series called Yu-Gi-Oh! For returning players. Unfortunately, COVID-19 forced a lot of people to stay home. Many of the people who played trading card games as kids decided to keep themselves busy by getting back into these games, but with all the new cards and revisions to the rules, it can be very challenging for returning players who do not only want to collect the cards, but actually play the games these cards were meant to be used for. In this video, we're gonna go over what the board for Yu-Gi-Oh! Looks like in 2021. Just like when the game was first released in North America in 2002, the board still consists of 5 monster zones in which you can summon your monsters. Here, you are able to summon normal monsters, effect monsters, ritual monsters, fusion monsters, synchro monsters, XYZ monsters, pendulum monsters, link monsters, but only when a link monster in the extra monster zone points to it, which means that in 2021 it actually matters where you summon your monsters, as some effects will target monsters in specific zones. And finally, monster tokens. The extra monster zones are Yu-Gi-Oh!'s latest addition to the board. These two zones are shared by both players, so you can choose left or right, and the only monsters that you can summon here are link monsters. The spell and trap card zones are still 5, with the only distinction that the zones to the far left and the far right have been designated as pendulum monster zones. Here, you can still play spell and trap cards, but if you play pendulum monsters as spells, they must go here. If you play them as monsters, they go in the monster zones. The field zone is still the same. Here is where you can activate spell cards that determine the field in which your and your opponent's monsters will do battle. Both you and your opponent are allowed to have a field card active at the same time, but you cannot set a card face down in this zone. If set, it must be done in the spell and trap zone and placed in the field zone after activation. The extra deck zone, formerly known as the fusion deck zone, is now home to fusion monsters, synchro monsters, XYZ monsters, link monsters, and monster tokens. Pendulum monsters are also sent here face up, but only after they have been destroyed on the field as monsters or spell cards, since they can be both. You're only allowed to have up to 15 monsters in the extra deck zone, and they must be face down. Pendulum monsters sent here during a duel do not count towards that total. The deck zone is still the area where you keep your deck face down. Your deck must be no more than 60 cards and no less than 40. The graveyard is the place where all cards are sent after they are destroyed or used, unless the card states otherwise. In today's Yu-Gi-Oh!, the graveyard is almost like a second deck, since the modern game has a plethora of cards that activate in the graveyard or dig into the graveyard for resources. Finally, the banished zone is a conceptual zone in which all banished, or formerly known as removed from play, cards go to. In 2021, this is in many ways the true graveyard, as cards are much less likely to leave the banished zone than they are to leave the graveyard. And this is the board for 2021. I hope you found this video informative and this helps you get back into the game. If you did, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.